All right, let's dive into an economic idea from way back in the 18th century that, believe it or not, has a massive impact on your wallet right now. It's called the Cantillon effect, and it's all about why printing money is never as simple as it sounds. So, what exactly is the Cantillon effect? Well, it's named after an economist from the 1700s, Richard Cantillon. And his big idea was this: when new money gets created, it doesn't spread out evenly like butter on toast. The key isn't just how much money is made, but where it enters the system first. And as we're about to see, being first in line changes everything.
To really get this, we're going to follow the money. First, we'll see where it comes from. Then we'll look at who gets that first mover advantage. After that, we'll break down the consequences for everybody else. And finally, we'll tie it all together and show you why this really matters today.
So, first up, the source of the money. Where does this new cash actually appear? It's easy to imagine that new money is like a helicopter drop, where suddenly everyone gets a check in the mail. But that's not how it works, not at all. The reality is that new money gets injected into the economy through some very specific channels. And here they are. These are the primary entry points. When central banks create new money, it flows directly into the financial system. So the first hands to touch it are the big players: banks, the government, major corporations, and financial markets themselves. Not you and me. Okay, so the money is in the system. Now what? Well, that brings us to our second part, the first mover advantage. Let's really trace this money's journey. This whole process basically splits everyone into two groups. You've got your first receivers on one side. They're the ones closest to the money spigot. And then you have the last receivers, which, let's be honest, is most of us. And you can probably guess who gets the head start here. So with all this brand new capital, what are the first receivers up to? They're putting that money to work, and fast. They're buying up assets like stocks and real estate, they're pouring money into new projects, and they're expanding their businesses. And here's the real kicker. They get to spend all this new money before prices in the broader economy have had a chance to react and go up. Just think about that for a second. They are effectively buying things at yesterday's prices with tomorrow's money. That is the first mover advantage in a nutshell. But that money doesn't just stay with them, right? It starts to get spent, circulating from one person to the next, one business to another. So as all this new cash starts moving through the economy, what do you think happens next? Yep, you got it. Prices start to go up. You have more money chasing the same amount of goods and services, so things just get more expensive. That's the inflation we all feel. Now, by the time this money finally trickles all the way down to the general population, to the wage earners, the savers, the last receivers, the economic landscape has completely changed. Prices have already climbed, so the dollars they finally get are worth less. Their actual purchasing power has been chipped away. And this brings us to the big picture. Let's talk about the final consequences. What is the systemic impact of this whole process playing out over and over again? The fallout from this is huge. First, it systematically increases wealth inequality. The rich get richer. Second, it pumps up the prices of assets like stocks and houses. Third, it's a direct hit to savers and anyone on a fixed income, as their money buys less and less. And finally, it distorts the whole economy. Prices stop being a clear signal of supply and demand. Really, it's a hidden transfer of wealth from the last receivers to the first. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important section. Why does any of this matter? How does some theory from a guy in a powdered wig connect to your life right now? The biggest lesson here is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. When we talk about the economy, we can't just ask how much money is being created. The real critical question is, who's getting it first? The flow of the money matters just as much as the amount, maybe even more. If you want to boil it all down to one sentence, it's this: monetary policy is never neutral. The decisions made about creating money always end up creating winners and losers. And the Cantillon effect gives us the playbook for exactly how that happens. So the next time you see a headline about money printing or another big economic stimulus plan, you'll have a completely new lens to look at it through. You can ask the crucial question: who is this really helping? Who gets the money first? Understanding this effect doesn't just help you understand the past. It fundamentally changes how you see the economic world unfolding right now.